How you doing?
I'm fine. Just admiring my little plants. Wishing them well. Need to do our garden walkthrough.
Yes, that would be a wonderful day.
Today would be a good day for that. What's the date today?
That's a good question. 11th, I believe. May 11?
What was your question?
Our new and improved home. Let's not forget the improved. So what did we do today earlier?
Well, we went to look at a farm, a rather 6-acre property. Or maybe 4 acres. Just north of here on the 5th line. Newly renovated house and a pile of buildings.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, and a pile of crap.
Well, and a pile of crap. Big pile of crap. Huge amount of debris. Yeah, no thanks. Interesting that this is the inverse of this hexagram, which was the last time we asked about moving. So we're getting the inverse of the hexagram. And hexagram 51. The arousing. Shock, thunder. The judgment. Shock brings success. Shock comes. Oh. Laughing words. Ha ha. The shock terrifies for 100 miles. The shock that comes from the manifestation of God within the depths of the earth makes man afraid. But this fear of God is good, for joy and merriment can follow upon it. When a man has learned within his heart what fear and trembling mean, he is safeguarded against any terror produced by outside influences. Let the thunder roll and spread terror 100 miles around. He remains so composed and reverent in spirit that the sacrificial rite is not interrupted. This is the spirit that must animate leaders and rulers of men, a profound inner seriousness from which all outer terrors glance off harmlessly. The image, thunder repeated the image of shock. Thus, in fear and trembling, the superior man sets his life in order and examines himself. The shock of continuing thunder brings fear and trembling. The superior man is always filled with reverence at the manifestation of God. He sets his life in order and searches his heart, lest it harbor any secret opposition to the will of God. Thus, reverence is the foundation of true culture. And then there's 2 moving lines. 9 at the beginning means shock comes. Oh. Then follow laughing words. Ha ha. Good fortune. The fear and trembling engendered by shock come to an individual at first in such a way that he sees himself placed at a disadvantage as against others. But this is only transitory. When the ordeal is over, he experiences relief, and thus the very terror he had to endure at the outset brings good fortune in the long run. 6 in the third place means shock comes and makes one distraught. If shock spurs to action, one remains free of misfortune. There are 3 kinds of shock: the shock of heaven, which is thunder, the shock of fate, and finally the shock of the heart. The present hexagram refers less to inner shock than to the shock of fate. In such times of shock, presence of mind is all too easily lost. The individual overlooks all opportunities for action and mutely lets fate take its course. But if he allows the shocks of fate to induce movement within his mind, he will overcome these external blows with little effort. And that changes to a new hexagram. Hexagram number 2, the receptive, the judgment. The receptive brings about sublime success, furthering through the perseverance of a mare. If the superior man undertakes something and tries to lead, he goes astray. But if he follows, he finds guidance. It is favorable to find friends in the west and south, to forego friends in the east and north. Quiet perseverance brings good fortune. The 4 fundamental aspects of the creative, sublime success furthering through perseverance, are also attributed to the receptive. Here, however, the perseverance is more closely defined. It is that of a mare. The receptive connotes spatial reality in contrast to the spiritual potentiality of the creative. The potential becomes real and the spiritual becomes spatial through a specifically qualifying definition. Thus, the qualification of a mare is added here to the idea of perseverance. The horse belongs to earth, just as the dragon belongs to heaven. Its tireless roaming over the plains is taken as a symbol of the vast expanse of the earth. This is the symbol chosen because the mare combines the strength and swiftness of the horse with the gentleness and devotion of the cow. Only because nature in its myriad forms corresponds with the myriad impulses of the creative can it make these impulses real. Nature's richness lies in its power to nourish all living things. Its greatness lies in its power to give them beauty and splendor. Thus it prospers all that lives. It is the creative that begets things, but they are brought to birth by the receptive. Applied to human affairs, therefore, what the hexagram indicates is action in conformity with the situation. The person in question is not in an independent position, but is acting as an assistant. This means that he must achieve something. It is not his task to try to lead. That would only make him lose the way, but to let himself be led. If he knows how to meet fate with an attitude of acceptance, he is sure to find the right guidance. The superior man lets himself be guided. He does not go ahead blindly, but learns from the situation what is demanded of him and then follows this intimation from fate. Since there is something to be accomplished, we need friends and helpers in the hour of toil and effort, once the ideas to be realized are firmly set. What? Like what? Well, go for it, man. The time of toil and effort is indicated by the west and the south, for west and south symbolize the place where the receptive works for the creative as nature does in summer and autumn. If in that situation one does not mobilize all one's powers, the work to be accomplished will not be done. Hence, to find friends there means to find guidance. But in addition to the time of toil and effort, there is also a time of planning, and for this we need solitude. The east symbolizes the place where a man receives orders from his master, and the north the place where he reports on what he has done. At that time he must be alone and objective. In this sacred hour he must do without companions, so that the purity of the moment may not be spoiled by factional hates and favoritism. The image, the earth's condition is receptive devotion. Thus, the superior man who has breadth of character carries the outer world. Just as there is only one heaven, so too there is only one earth. In the hexagram of heaven, the doubling of the trigram implies duration in time. But in the hexagram of earth, the doubling connotes the solidity and extension in space, by virtue of which the earth is able to carry and preserve all things that live and move upon it. The earth in its devotion carries all things, good and evil, without exception. In the same way, the superior man gives to his character breadth, purity, and sustaining power, so that he is able to both support and to bear with people and things. There you go.
So what does this mean to you?
Well, the first hexagram, shock, says to me that this new home will come kind of out of the blue, from an unexpected direction, unanticipated direction. And, you know, the main thing is we don't lose our composure, that we pay attention, that we be prepared to act when the time comes to act. It may come in a form that initially you find upsetting or disturbing.
When we tried to move before, and we told Richard, like, these are our plans, and the next day there was a real estate agent making pictures of the farm.
Yeah.
Which was a big fuck you. I'm gonna just sell this under your asses, whether you find something or not, and I don't give a fuck that it will highly inconvenience you. And he went there again.
Yes, he did. Anyway, there will be a call to,
to action.
Action, but the action will arise out of the situation at hand, right?
Do you think the mirror refers to me?
If you like, sure. You want to take on that role?
What was that role again?
Well, it's a role of being submissive rather than active. It's submissive not in a negative sense, but just that you're responding to someone else's or some other entity's initiative, and then you're responding to that rather than being taking on the role of creating the momentum yourself. You're basically furthering what is already in play. Well, what I took from this hexagram was that the move may come from about unexpectedly, from a direction or a situation that we're not anticipating, but if we just retain our composure and don't freak out, trust in the guidance, that everything will work out just fine. That's what I got. So, all's well that ends well.